Hello everyone, welcome to ITLS Academy. ITLS Academy is the best online training platform with unique features which you will not find anywhere else. I am Siddharth Singh, MTech from IIT BHU and an expert in immunology. So today's lecture will be on immunology and overview. In this lecture, we will be overgoing the concept of immunology in the modern sciences and how those concept has given rise. What is the previous trend in the history? What is the history of immunology? Which are the scientists which play a key role in the development of modern day immunological sciences? So let's start. We'll start by giving a brief history of immunology. The word immunity, which means a state of protection or a state of protection, has been derived from Latin word immunis. So it all started in the 15th century when the Chinese and the Turkish people, they inhaled dried crust derived from smallpox pustules and successfully cured themselves from the smallpox disease. Following their same experiment in 1718, Lady Mary performed the same process on her own children, and her own children were also recovered from the smallpox disease. In 1798, English physician Edward Jenner thought of introducing fluid from the cowpox pustule into the people, that is, inoculating them might protect them from smallpox. He inoculated an 8-year-old boy with fluid from a cowpox pustule and later intentionally infected the child with smallpox. Later, that child also recovered from the disease. Moving down the history line, another scientist, Louis Pasteur, who worked on the bacterial culture, confirmed to cause the cholera. He is working on a bacterial culture which is known to cause the cholera disease in chickens. So he injected this disease into chickens, and all the chickens got recovered. They got ill, but they got recovered. So he was surprised. So he again injected the newly cultured strain of bacteria to some new and to some old chickens. He was basically testing that whether the age of the bacteria play any role in its virulence or its disease causing capacity. And he was right. All the old ones survived while the new chickens got killed. He then hypothesized that age of the bacterial culture has decreased its virulence and called it attenuated strain, which can be used to gain immunity. He was the first to use the term a vaccine. In 1888, Pasteur first vaccinated one group of sheep with anthrax bacteria, Bacillus anthracis, that were attenuated by heat treatment. Later down the history, in 1885, Pasteur administered his first vaccine to a human, a young boy who had been bitten repeatedly by a rabid dog. So by this time, the concept of vaccine has been introduced to the people, but the mechanism by which the vaccine worked is not clear. Some scientists are saying that they are mediated by a cell, and some are saying that there is a soluble agent which plays a role in the mechanism of vaccine. So Emil von Behring and Shibashiro Kitasato in 1890, they coined the term serum by analyzing the mechanism of immunity. In 1930, Alvin Cabot, a part of serum called gamma globulin, now immunoglobulin, was made responsible for all events. Another term, humoral immunity, was first used at that time. The soluble agent which we are referred in the play a key role in the vaccine mechanism, soluble agent, is termed as humoral immunity or humoral. Why it is being called humoral? Because since these antibodies are present in the body fluids called humors at that time, hence humoral immunity term is coined. Now antiserum, what is antiserum? Antibody containing serum fraction from a pathogen exposed individual was given to another individual who is not immune. So basically antiserum are nothing but antibody which containing serum fraction. And the process by which an individual who is not immune to a particular disease is injected antibody from other individual is known as passive immunity, because the antibodies are not generated by the person, but rather he is receiving the antibodies generated from some other person immune system. Hence, since these antibodies are not generated in the host body, so they are very short-lived. Now, another term, cell-mediated immunity. Cell-mediated immunity is another branch which we have discussed earlier, that plays a role in the vaccine mechanism, is mediated by cells. So at that time it is called as cell-mediated immunity. It is the immunity imparted by specific cells, basically B cells and T cells, which we now know that they are B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. So in a key experiment by Merrill Chase in 1940, he succeeded in conferring immunity against TB, tuberculosis, by transferring WBCs between guinea pigs. Till now, all attempts have failed. In 1950, lymphocytes were identified as a cell responsible for both humoral and cellular immunity. Bruce Glick proved that there are two lymphocytes, T and B. Moving towards the next topic, how foreign substances are identified by immune system. So in 1900s, Carl Landsteiner showed that injecting an animal with almost any non-self organic chemical could induce production of antibodies that bind to that chemical. Ehrlich proposed that cells in the blood expressed a variety of receptors, which he called side chain receptors, that could bind to infectious agents and neutralize them in a lock and key manner. This theory was accepted with minor corrections. Instead of one cell making many receptors, each cell makes many copies of just one membrane bound receptor. Hence, specificity comes. An army of cells, each with a different antigen specificity, is therefore required. The selected B cell can be triggered to proliferate and to secrete many copies of these receptors in soluble forms, now called antibodies, once it has been selected by antigen binding. In 1930s and 1940s, the selective theory was challenged by various instructional theories. These theories held that antigen played a central role in determining the specificity of the antibody molecule. According to instructional theorists, a particular antigen would serve as a template around which antibody would fold, sort of an impression mold. It is given by Friedrich Barrel and Felix Hauswirth in 1930. So in 1950s, another theory, clonal selection theory, came into the picture. What does it mean, or what is the concept of clonal theory, clonal selection theory? It is an individual B or T lymphocytes expresses many copies of membrane receptor that are specific for a single distinct antigen. Later on, the instructional theories were formally disapproved in the 1960s. So we can understand from this diagram here that what is the meaning, or how the immune system works once the antigen enters into the human body. Suppose this is an antigen. We are having various categories of antigen. An antigen can be a foreign protein, it can be a virus, or it can be a bacteria. So once it enters the host, the two responses or the two branches of immune system, one is humoral response, another one is cell-mediated response, they gets activated. So what happens in humoral response? Humoral response, it activates, or it involves only the B cells, the B lymphocytes, while the cellular response involves the T lymphocytes. So here in this figure, as you can see, that this is a B cell which is having its receptor BCR. BCR is basically B cell receptors, and as soon as it binds to an antigen, the activated B cells start releasing antibodies. The main function of a B cell is to produce antibodies, and the second function of a B cell is to produce the memory cells. So what are memory cells? Memory cells are basically the cells which stores the information of this antigen. So in future, again, if this antigen comes in the host body, then there won't be any need of generating or activating the total immune system. These antibodies are already present in the immune system, so they get activated, or they capture this antigen and neutralize that antigen. So in human response, B cell gets activated, which releases antibodies and memory cells. These antibodies will neutralize the antigen, and the memory cells will keep the information of that antigen. So in future, whenever that antigen came, there won't be any need of activating the complete process. The already present antibodies will neutralize the foreign particle or the antigen. What happens in a cellular response? In cellular response, T cells get activated. Here you can see that there is a T cell which is having its receptor TCR, which is called T cell receptor. So once the antigen enters, and if the activation of T cells happen, then the T cell gets divided into TH cell and TC cells. TH cells are basically known as T helper cells, and TC cells are known as T cytotoxic cells. Now these TH cells, they gets activated and they release certain molecules which we call them as cytokines. These are the chemical messengers which helps in the activation of TC cells and also in the activation of B cells. So once the cytokines has been synthesized, they will activate T cells. Although the TC cell has already been synthesized, once it's activated, once it get an exposure to antigen, but these cytokines molecules help further intensify that process. The TC cells, they gets converted into CTLs, or cytotoxic T lymphocytes, which have their membrane bound receptors which bounce through the infected cells, and the effective killing of the antigen or the foreign particles happens. Here we have shown that this is an infected cells having a particular receptor which binds to the CTL, through which the killing of this infected cells happen. So this is the overall how the immune system works. Let's move further. So we need to understand that there are certain important concepts before understanding mammalian immune response, how the immune system gets activated. There are certain basic concepts which we need to know before understanding the complete immune system. First is a pathogen, and another one is pathogenesis. So what is a pathogen? Pathogen is basically any foreign particle which enters into the human body. May it be a virus, may it be a bacteria, may it be the DNA, may it be virus, anything which enters into the in the human body is a pathogen for a human body, as long as it is not a part of the human body. And what is pathogenesis? Pathogenesis is the process by which a pathogen can cause a disease in the host. The pathogens can be divided, or there are basically 4 types of pathogens. First is a virus, another one is fungi, another one is bacteria, and another one is a parasite. All of them are capable of generating immune response in humans, or in some cases they are capable of making a human very ill in various cases. So basically, if we talk about humans, then there are 2 basic barriers, or the basic mechanism by which the human body is being protected. First is the innate immunity, and another one is the passive immunity or adaptive immunity or acquired immunity. So in innate immunity is what? Innate immunity includes the barrier in the humans. So basically the first barrier would be skin. In a human, any particle or any pathogen cannot enter. The first inhibition, or the first line of defense of human immune system is the skin. So immune pathways do not become engaged until foreign organism first breach the physical barrier of the body. Skin and mucous membrane, acidity of the stomach, vagina, and the perspiration are the further barriers to microorganisms which hinders their growth because of their low pH. So now we know that the first line of defense of immune system is the barriers, physical barriers. Now there are certain microorganisms or there are certain pathogens which quickly gets adapted to their environment. So according to those conditions, our immune system has to adapt so that there is an efficient killing of a pathogen. So the immune response quickly becomes tailored to the suite of assault. The process of pathogen recognition involves an interaction between foreign organism and a recognition molecule or molecules expressed by the host cell. This means that some immune cells must be capable of detecting changes that occurs in a host cell after it becomes infected. This is achieved by the range of cytotoxic cells, but especially cytotoxic T lymphocytes or TC cells as a part of a cellular arm of immunity. So basically what it means as soon as the pathogen is getting modified or changing its structure, or suppose on day 1 a particular pathogen has infected and on day 2 a particular pathogen has infected, but they are both similar, but because of a mutation, this pathogen has a different set of DNA and this pathogen has a different set of genetic material. So now either the immune system have to generate separate antibodies, or complete immune system has to be reinitialized according to this pathogen, or what our immune system can do, it can modify according to the attack or whichever pathogen is getting inside the human body. So what it does, or how it does it does it with the help of the cellular branch of immunity, which we call as which is composed of T cells and B cells, or especially the cytotoxic T cells. Now B cells, what does B cells do? B cells and the antibodies they produce as a part of humoral immunity play a major role in neutralizing extracellular pathogens such as fungi and most bacteria. Now, pathogen recognition molecules can be encoded in the germline or randomly generated. The pathogen-associated molecular patterns or PAMPs are common foreign structures that characterize whole group of pathogens. White blood cells naturally expresses a variety of receptors collectively referred to as a pattern recognition receptors (PRRs) that specifically recognize these sugar residues as well as other common foreign structures. So basically, for example, viruses which frequently expose unique chemical structures only during their replication inside host cell. Many of these can be detected via intracellular receptors that bind exposed chemical moieties while still inside the host cell. This can trigger an immediate antiviral response in the infected cell that blocks further virus replication. At the same time, this initiates the secretion of a chemical warning signal sent to nearby cells to help them guard against infection, a neighborhood watch system. Now, because pathogens generally have much shorter life cycles than their vertebrate host, and some utilize error-prone DNA polymerases to replicate their genome, pathogens can evolve rapidly to evade host-encoded recognition system. If this were our only defense, the host immune response would quickly become obsolete thanks to these real-time pathogen avoidance strategies. How can the immune system prepare for this? This strategy, called generation of diversity, is employed by developing B and T lymphocytes. The result is a group of B and T cells where each expresses many copies of one unique recognition molecule, resulting in a population with a theoretical potential to respond to any antigen that may come along. Now here another term is being introduced is tolerance. What does this mean? Tolerance basically means that all the cells or the cells which are present in human body. So here another term, tolerance, comes into the picture. What does immunological tolerance means? Immunological tolerance is the failure to mount an immune response to an antigen. It can be a natural or induced tolerance. Natural or self-tolerance is the failure to attack the body's own protein and other antigens. If the immune system should respond to self, an autoimmune disease may result. And what is induced tolerance? This is tolerance to external antigens. Example, deliberately manipulating the immune system to protect us from unpleasant, even dangerous allergic responses or reactions to such things as food. Example, peanuts. or deliberately manipulating the immune system to enable transplanted organs, example kidney, heart, liver, to survive in their new host, that is to avoid graft rejection, or preventing the immune system from mounting an inflammatory attack against the vast number of harmless, even beneficial bacteria living in the intestine. Immunological tolerance is not simply a failure to recognize an antigen. It is an active response to a particular epitope and is just as specific as an immune response. Both B cells and T cells can be made tolerant, but it is more important to tolerize T cells and B cells because B cells cannot make antibodies to most antigens without the help of T cells. So now the term innate immunity and adaptive immunity came into existence. So the immune response is composed of two interconnected arms. One is innate immunity and another one is adaptive immunity. So what is innate immunity? So innate immunity or the innate immune response consists of physical, chemical and cellular defenses against pathogens. The main purpose of the innate immune response is to immediately prevent the spread and movement of foreign pathogens throughout the body. So basically innate immunity is the immunity which is present in any individual since birth, or it has been derived or it has been given from the mother to the child when he was in the fetus. So it involves the various chemical barriers, which is the first line of defense. So what is moving towards the next term, adaptive immunity? What is adaptive immunity? Adaptive immunity or the acquired immunity is the immunity which a particular individual acquired by facing various infections throughout his life cycle. So basically what it means as soon as a particular individual is getting infected by a particular pathogen, then the antibodies will be generated according to the cell-mediated response. Those antibody will protect the particular individual against that pathogen. So this is acquired immunity because it is being acquired during a particular infection. The adaptive immune system, also referred to as acquired immune system, is a subsystem of the immune system that is composed of specialized systemic cells and processes that eliminates pathogens by preventing their growth. Now cytokines are the molecules, like I discussed in the previous diagram, that these are the molecules which are being synthesized by the TA cells to help activate the B cells and the TC cells. A sub-branch of cytokines or another chemical which comes under the category of cytokines is a chemokine. Chemokine also perform the same function. They help in activation of the B cells and the TC cells. So basically what these all two branches, innate immunity and adaptive immunity, they work in collaboration to help protect the particular individual from any foreign particle or foreign pathogen. Now if we have to compare what is the difference or what is the basic similarity between innate immunity and adaptive immunity, in this table you can see that if we talk about the response time of innate immunity, then it is very quick. It takes only minutes to hours because it is the first line of defense of any human individual, so it will take only minutes to hours, whereas adaptive immunity takes days to develop the antibodies or to make memory cells. So talking about the specificity, it is the specificity of innate immunity is very limited or fixed because it cannot it is not specific to any particular pathogen. It is basically the first wall of defense against any pathogen, so it is not specific to any pathogen. Its function is to stop any foreign particle which is entering in a human body, whereas adaptive immunity is highly diverse. It adapts to improve during the course of immune response. It is since it is an adaptive immunity, so it will generate B cells and T cells according to the particular pathogens. A particular pathogen, if it is a protein or if it is a DNA particle, then the different immune system or different antibody will be generated depending upon the which foreign particle is being injected in the human system. Talking about the response to repeat infection, innate immunity is same each time. It basically means that it only takes minutes to hours for innate immunity, whereas if we talk about the adaptive immunity, it is more rapid and effective with subsequent exposure. So basically it means if an infection is being happen or it occurs second time in a particular individual, then the second time the rate of adaptive immunity function is much faster than the first time, because at the second time already the B cells and the memory cells is present in the immune system, so it will take very less time to get the acquired immunity system activated. Now, what are the major components of innate immunity and adaptive immunity? Innate immunity basically involves barriers, which includes skin and the pH. Other cells which are included in the innate immunity are phagocytes, pattern recognition molecules. In adaptive immunity, T cells and B cells, which are antigen specific receptors and antibodies. Now here in this diagram we will try to understand how these two branches of immunity, they collaborate with each other to help protect a particular individual from any foreign pathogen. So let's suppose this is the first line of defense, or this is the cell lining of a particular organ, and these are the pathogens. The red color or the blue which I have just circled are the pathogen foreign particles. The first process would be, as soon as the pathogen enters, they will be encountered by the cells, macrophages or phagocytes. They will try to kill them. After they are killed, or certain cells which are not killed, they gets entered into the lymph nodes. Now here in the lymph node, the first process is the entry of foreign particle into the lymph node, and in the sub step of that process is that as soon as the phagocytes they got infected or they encounters these foreign particles, they start secreting cytokines. These are the dotted particles are the cytokines. So what they will do, they will activate your immune system, like the B cells and the T cells. Now the third step would be, as soon as this phagocyte engulf foreign particle, they enter into the lymph node, the T cells and the B cells, or the humoral or the cell mediated branch of immunity, it gets activated. T cell bind to this phagocyte by T cell receptor, and B cell will bind the foreign pathogen by its BCR or B cell receptors. As soon as the B cells get encountered by the pathogen, it will generate memory cells and the antibody presenting cells, and the T cells will differentiate into TH cells and TC cells. Now these B cells will generate, their function is just to maintain the memory of this pathogen. So in the future, when this same pathogen will occur, the whole immune system will not get activated, since already the antibodies are present in the immune system. They will directly kill the pathogen. So now in the final step, what will happen? All the immune system, like basically the T cells will again generate cytokines. These cytokines will help in the further activation of B cells and TC cells and TH cells. So basically this is the diagram which shows that how these two branches, B cells and T cells and the innate immunity, they come together, they work together to kill a pathogen effectively. Now there are certain cases when the immune system of humans doesn't work or it fails. What are those scenarios? These scenarios is, the first scenario is a hypersensitivity, another one is autoimmune diseases, and another one is immune deficiency. So what does hypersensitivity means? As the word indicates, the all immune system gets hyperactivated. Overly zealous attacks on common benign but foreign antigens. Or hypersensitivity refers to undesirable reaction produced by the normal immune system, including allergies. So basically, whenever a particular individuals they encounters an allergy, it is because of the hypersensitivity reaction. Why these hypersensitivity reaction, or what is the mechanism behind all these hypersensitivity reaction, we will understand in the future lectures. Another situation or the case where the immune system fails is autoimmune diseases. What are autoimmune diseases? These are diseases, or the immune system is designed to protect humans from foreign particles, for foreign pathogens. But in autoimmune diseases, what happens is the immune system start attacking its own host. So it is like particular cells, B cells and T cells start attacking our own immune system or the human body. So this is autoimmune disease. And an example of autoimmune disease is rheumatoid arthritis, in which the immune system attacks the joints of a human body. Another case is an immunodeficiency. What does it mean? It means insufficiency of the immune response to protect against infectious agent. It means basically there is a foreign particle which has entered in the human body, but the immune system is not getting activated, or a sufficient immune system is not getting activated, so that there is an efficient killing of a foreign particle. Hypersensitivity is basically mediated by antibody or immunoglobulin E. What is immunoglobulin E? We will discuss in the further lectures, but for now we will suffice by saying that there are 5 types of antibodies or immunoglobulin. From them, one type of immunoglobulin is E. These are the molecules which are the antibodies which kills the foreign particles. So the example of autoimmunity is multiple sclerosis and Crohn's disease. Another example is, in contrast, a more rare but much more extreme deficiency called severe combined immunodeficiency, which affects both B and T cells and basically wipes out adaptive immunity. It comes into the category of immune deficiency. So this marks the ending of the overview of the immune system. We have discussed what are the various branches of immunity, how the concept of immunity is being generated, and what are the experiments which led to the discovery of immunoglobulins or the modern day immune science. So let's end this chapter here. In future lectures we will discuss in great details all these processes we have discussed here. Okay, thank you.